How does God use pain in our lives? Gary and I, and I think anybody else out there, has been through some painful experiences, and that God will use pain for what we're going to assume is his number one goal, or as we see it in Scripture, that God wants to bring people back to himself. Gary, I don't know, do you remember when you first heard the story? We got Luke chapter 15 here, which is the prodigal son parable. Only in Luke. When did you first hear this?
Oh, well, I've heard about, the term the prodigal son forever. I can't remember the first time I read it. It would have been some while back.
Right. We don't use the word prodigal much, and there's others who say, it's the parable of the two sons, I think. But the whole gist of it is that a son wants his inheritance from his father, which was a major insult 2,000 years ago. He gives it to him, and then he goes out and squanders the whole thing on what they called wild living.
Wild women in song.
Wild women in song. I think that I get it. Why would someone do this? They believe that the answers of their life are going to be somewhere, so they pursue it. How many people believe that the answers to their life are going to be in getting a hold of a lot of wealth?
Yeah, because the belief that money can solve everything, and it can't. And also just he was obviously lost. He didn't have a right idea about what he should do or the consequences, obviously.
Well, yeah, and I think that Jesus does this with wealth. He said in other parables that, if a guy who tears down his barns to build new barns because he had a bumper crop, he's good, I'll sit, eat, drink, and marry. And he says, well, consequences, you fool. One night your life will be required of you, then what will you do? Be rich towards God. But I think for a lot of people, economics is a powerful driving force. And one way to get, I think, economically rich, besides the lotto ticket, which is almost illusionary, the chances of you hitting that, is inheritance.
Yeah. It was kind of out of line also for him, being the younger son, to request the inheritance early, when usually the older son would get 2/3 of the inheritance, and the younger would get 1/3, and that he was the one that instigated collecting the inheritance early was also a little bit out of line. So I think we have a little greed going on there too.
Well, perhaps with the older son, yeah. It's that we are born with needs. And the question I think of life is, how are our needs going to be met? And when we go to the wrong places to get our needs met, oftentimes that can lead our life in pain. We talked before the camera went on this morning already about the fact that sometimes we, even as dedicated followers of Christ, will stray.
Yes. A lot of times life will get in our way. And then sometimes life can go to lead us, back to God, and he's just there waiting for us. I had an experience this last year of having to have several eye surgeries. And after the first surgery, I was going to have to be face down for a week, or at least leaning forward with my head down. And I realized I was in an attitude of prayer, and I used that time so that in that attitude of prayer to actually pray and just commune with God. And it wound up being a really wonderful experience because I had plenty of time. I couldn't do anything else. And I think all of us as Christians have wished for that to have time to just pray and to sit and be with God. And it was, in the end, it wound up being a wonderful experience in that
Yeah.
respect.
And I think, I think there's a difference between you and this son. I mean, you were pushed in that because of your eye. I remember when I came out, you're going to have this eye surgery, and it was 90% of the surgeries work, 10% don't. And then Gary ends up as a 10%er.
Yeah.
And then you have another one, I think, oh, okay, the odds are with you this time, it's going to be okay. And no, there was a problem
Another
again.
10%er.
That oftentimes painful experiences in our life will open us up to new things. And for me, Gary, it's like, when I was younger and became Christian, I say, bring it on, God, I'm ready. It's now I'm older, and I'm thinking, no, don't do that to me. I don't want you to open things up to me like this. Because I know in my own life that God could open me up to more of an intimate experience like you experience with prayer. I think I can almost be ADD sometimes. Is that what it's called? I have my devotions in the morning, I run away in my mind and start thinking about other stuff rather than really focusing on God. But you get pushed in your life.
And that's easy to happen. My mind will wander sometimes. My wife will read us devotionals, and I have to have her read it very slowly so I can repeat everything she reads in my mind to stay focused. Otherwise, if I don't do that, my mind wanders.
Right. I still don't know. I've been doing this for a long time, over 30 years. I don't know what prodigal actually means. I get the gist of the story is that we can drift and run away from God. I think, again, in the story, what was important is that the prodigals, or this son, is asking, what is going to make my life work? And what he felt at the end of the day was going to make his life work was to get a hold of that inheritance. And I think that he's had experience with this. He knows what good wine is like. He knows what good food is like. So he figures all I need to do is get that. He knows the prostitutes. He has the natural urge of sexuality, I guess, to go chasing them down. Well, I can just live a self-indulged life and it'll work. You talked about consequences that we don't always think that. I mean, how many of us would think, a house on the beach? Have you been to Newport Beach down here in California?
No.
Maybe not.
No.
Got some beautiful houses, beautiful
Yeah.
beach. Or how about Hawaii? All you got to do is get to
Malibu.
Hawaii, get
Yeah.
to Maui, and I could have one of those houses. There's a reason there are millions of dollars because everybody wants it. I mean, and some people around here have said, yeah, you get it and you're miserable. Well, not necessarily, but chances are that you could be miserable. I've heard retirement people say that. They say, well, if you get that house on the beach and you think that's all you needed to get to retirement, it's going to make you miserable. There's more to life than this.
Yeah. Sometimes having all of your dreams come true can be a surprise in terms of how you can feel, when that happens.
Right, yeah, and it's the hope that drives us. It's the dreams, it's the endorphins that fire in our mind about that next vacation. Or those, have you had Wagyu steak yet? Maybe not.
No.
It's the highest quality. I didn't see this in the U.S. 30 years ago. I didn't know what it was, but the nicest wines and all that. And you think, well, all I got to do is get that. And then once you get it, you find out, well, yeah, this is nice, but it's not going to do what you think. It's the hope that drives us.
Mm-hmm. Like that boat.
The boat. If you could have anything that you can't have now with finances, what would it be?
It would not be a boat.
What would it be?
Been there, done that.
You've done the boat thing.
Yeah, I've had those two happiest days of your life, the day you get it and the day you get rid of it.
Is there anything you want, or are you just totally content?
I'm fairly content, although I'm spending a lot of time right now redoing my studio, but
That's what I was thinking, your studio.
yeah. And yeah, I'd have to say that there always seems to be a guitar I'm interested in, but I'm pretty content.
Right. The issue of life is, I think, here is that we chase the wrong things. And the question that I would ask is, does God use giving us what we think we want as a way of getting back to him? To say, hey, okay, you want to be a multimillionaire. You may not know, you'll take action on that, but you may not know it. God will give it to you with the hopes that's going to bring you back to him.
Or he can see, that what did you do with what I gave you?
Well, okay, and then take it to the story. What did
Yeah.
you do with your inheritance? We had some great parties. Yeah, there was more than one prostitute. We didn't want all of them. We chose the ones we wanted. And I say we because we had enough for everybody. Oh, the music was wonderful.
Yeah.
That's what I did with it. And the problem was in the story with the prodigal in Luke 15, it stopped working because he ran out of money. He went broke. And there was a famine. And he figured, I got to get a job. And he got a job. And the job, feeding the pigs, insult of insult.
Yeah, the lowest of the low.
And then when you're hungry, he was hungry. The pods that he fed the pigs looked good, but nobody even would give him anything. Does life have to fall apart for people to come back to God?
I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily the way you'd want to do that. Some people go that way. But, and lots of times when people do that, they don't realize that when they do go back, and if they do come to God, that he's just been waiting for them. And he's always just there for them. He's there for us. If we kind of lose our way a little bit, get distracted with, the things that go on in our life and the things that concern us, beyond our spiritual life, that God is always just waiting there. He's waiting to embrace us.
And I think that's what Jesus was saying by this story, is that you find out that you're going to get something that you didn't think you're going to get. Because what this guy thought he was going to get in the story here with reciprocity is, he knew it, feeding the pigs. I'm a mess up. I did the wrong thing with my life. I squandered all this. And now I'm going to have to go back and face God, or face my Father. And he probably was in quite of a panic mode, rehearsing in his mind, how am I going to tell him what happened? And he finds just the opposite of what he thought he was going to find.
That his Father, just like our Father in heaven, was there waiting to embrace him and to welcome him back.
Yeah. And I don't know if it always works in such a big old boom way like for him. And you did talk about little walking away from God. But for him, it was quite this massive experience of celebration, of joy. I was wondering, when you think about his parties and how did they compare to the one that they were having at the ranch, It's like, the right answer is, it's so much greater at the one at the ranch than it was the ones that we had. But I guess the real point is the fatted calf. Yeah. There's a place that sells meat in California called the fatted calf. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
There's one in Napa. But, they have this big old celebration. And it's just with music and dancing, everything that it was that he was looking for in his life. And now it's celebrating with a purpose rather than we're going to party for the sake of partying.
Right.
The celebration is the boy is home now. The most important thing of life that God would want is for people to come back into the relationship with him. And the question that we ask here is, does God give us what we want, even though it's going to hurt us, with the hope it's going to fall apart and we're going to come back to him?
Yeah, the brother, we had talked about the brother and his reaction and his concentration on works, that he felt that his works, that his brother didn't deserve to be welcomed, that he should be punished or something, that he didn't welcome his brother back. And I believe it's because he was judging him very harshly.
Well, yeah, I think that for our life, the belief that our self-worth will come through what we do. And that if we do things, there should be some type of reciprocity and celebration for that. Even in the United States, we struggle with this. I would imagine people struggle all over the world. You don't give things to people until they've earned them. That you've got to perform to get something. You start giving people parties and all this stuff, that's just going to encourage more irresponsible behavior. If you reward irresponsible behavior, you're going to get more of it.
So I wonder where grace comes in there. Because I think with God's grace that he rewards us whether we deserve it or not. And he loves us whether we deserve it or not.
Well, would that be one of the whole problems of coming to God in the first place? There's something that's messed up in our psyches that believes, because of the way the world has to operate, I believe, do something to get something. If you mess up that system, you can get an angry reaction, like with this brother who's mad because this is the black sheep of the family, this is the big foul up, and now he gets this. What the heck did I ever get? He says, Dad, you never even had a party for me with my friends. And when this son comes back, who blew all of our inheritance, your inheritance is the word, you do this for him.
Well, I think it shows the father represents God, and we all wind up being either one of the sons at some point, where we can be resentful of others, or we can just really blow it. But then God's there to accept us and to love us and to welcome us back.
Right, and he also says to this son that everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate because this brother of yours who was lost, now he is found. And that's what it's about. It's about relationship with him. I think that we all need acceptance and righteousness, and the way you get it is by playing the game right, or I would call it a game. It's doing the right things. And if you do the right things, you should get rewarded for it. And the son is saying, the whole thing has gone amok here. You're going to give this to this guy, my brother? If I even call him that anymore? After all of his fouling up and all this, you're going to give him a big old party? No, this is not appropriate. He made a fool out of you. I mean, you had to go talk to your friends about this son of yours that humiliated you and the man that you are in the community. I didn't do that. I did the right stuff. And that whole fixture of do this to get this, I think that can keep us away from God too. We don't
Yeah.
understand God. God is about amazing grace.
Exactly. Yeah, the return of the Son and the acceptance of the Father is just a really powerful lesson.
Yeah, in both those ways. But it's interesting that this is in a context of Jesus talking to the Pharisees, who were very much like that second son.
Yes.
And he told them the story about celebrating. They're saying, why are you hanging out with these people on the margins, these foul ups in society? And then he explains it to them. This is why I do what I do. Is because what it's about is relationship. It's not about you earning anything and getting things. And that's how the world solves its issue. And what did God want to do in the world? He wants to give us his grace and bring us back home into a relationship. And the thought we're given here is sometimes for God to do that, he gives us what we want. You want your inheritance? You believe your life's going to come together in something besides me and your relationship? Okay, there you go. And all idols are made for destruction. They stop working eventually. So, but anyway, we just want to say thank you for being here with us and having Gary around for the first time in the discussions. And we hope you check us out on our online with our website. And we have more messages like this. Maybe you're on there now, you know. Conversations for the Curious. We have For the Curious, which are just short snippets. We have our Children's Corner. So anyway, come and see us again. God's peace be with you. Take care now. Okay.